Let's look at a few other verses. Chapter 13, verse 13. He flingeth the loud voiced thunderbolts, and therewith he striketh whomsoever he will. What? Chapter 39, verse 52. Know they not that Allah enlarges the provisions or restricts it for any He pleases. Chapter 42, verse 12. He enlarges and restricts the sustenance to whom He will. I'm guessing the starving children around the world are not among those whom God is pleased with, right? Let's move on. Chapter 5, verse 13. We cursed them and made their hearts grow hard. Chapter 5, verse 14. We estranged them with enmity and hatred between the one and the other to the day of the judgment. 5:13 is talking about the Jews, and 5:14 is talking about the Christians. God made Jewish hearts grow hard, and He filled Christians with hatred and enmity till the last day. And then He will burn them all in hell. Good job there, God. Chapter 5, verse 64 says that God placed hatred and enmity among the Jews till the last day. Chapter 9, verse 77, so He has put as a consequence hypocrisy into their hearts. And this verse is probably talking about Jews, and basically God has turned them into hypocrites. Okay, seriously, if any Muslim out there who has bothered to watch this video so far, just what the hell is Allah complaining about when He is the one who causes people to do what they're accused of? I mean, God has made them close-minded, hateful, hypocritical, and enemies of each other, and they're still expected to follow God out of their own free will. Come on, seriously. Here's a really interesting one. Chapter 6, verse 112. Likewise did we make for every messenger and enemy evil ones, men and jinns. So God is the one who makes the enemies for the prophets. So all those people who rejected and wanted to kill Muhammad, it was Allah who made them do that. Chapter 7, verse 27. We made the evil ones friends to those without faith. Chapter 19, verse 83. Seest thou not that we have set the evil ones on against the unbelievers to incite them with fury? So He made them our friends, and then He uses them to make us angry. Okay, and Allah is still not done with us. Chapter 43, verses 36 and 37 say that if anyone refuses to remember Allah, He will set an evil one to be your best friend, and he will lead you on the wrong path, but you're going to think that you are being guided on the right path. Let's look at a few other verses. Chapter 2, verses 6 to 7. As to those who reject faith, it is the same to them whether thou warn them or do not warn them. They will not believe. Allah has set a seal on their hearts and on their hearing, and on their eyes is a veil. Great is the penalty they incur. Now there are two problems with this. First of all, somebody needs to inform Allah that the heart has nothing to do with one's ability to reason. The other problem is that, well, it should be very obvious by now. Chapter 4, verse 155 says that God has sealed the hearts of the Jews for their blasphemy. Chapter 9, verse 87, they prefer to be with the women who remain behind. Their hearts are sealed, and so they understand not. In context, it seems like it is referring to Muslims who refuse to go fight in a battle by saying they want to be home with their women. And the reason for this is that Allah has sealed their hearts, and so they don't understand what they're missing. But that doesn't seem to stop Allah from whining again and again. Chapter 17, verses 45 and 46 say that when you recite the Quran, Allah puts an invisible veil between you and the Kafirs, and then He seals their hearts yet again. Chapter 36, verses 8 to 10. We have put yokes round their necks right up to their chins so that their heads are forced up, and we have put a bar in front of them and a bar behind them, and further we have covered them up, so that they cannot see. The same is it to them whether thou admonish them, or thou do not admonish them. They will not believe. Somebody needs to tell Allah that closing our minds is not the way to go if He wants us to believe in Him. Chapter 63, verse 3. That is because they believed, then they rejected faith, so a seal was set on their hearts, therefore they understand not. So a person who once believed in Allah, but later rejected Him, gets a seal on his heart, and because of the seal he cannot understand. Well, I believed in Allah once, I don't anymore, and now I have no chance of being on the right path because God won't let me. Let's look at some other verses. Chapter 24, verse 21. Were it not for the grace and mercy of Allah on you, not one of you would ever have been pure, but Allah does purify whom He pleases. So none of us are pure unless Allah purifies us? If that is the case, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it that Allah made us impure and that we can only attain purity if Allah wills it? Again, where's my free will? if I'm impure to start with. Chapter 4, verse 28. Allah does wish to lighten your difficulties, for man was created weak in flesh? Huh? To understand this verse, we need its context. It seems to me that it is talking about how men are not able to control their sexual desires. And the reason for it is the Quranic fact that Allah made us weak. Let's assume that being sexually active is a crime and a sin. Where exactly is my free will to stay away from sex if God has already made me weak and inclined to commit the heinous crime of sex? Then why the hell is he complaining again and again if this is the way he made me? Chapter 70, verse 19. Truly man was created very impatient, and this is just messed up. So God has pretty much done a lot to keep us away from him. You know, I'm starting to think that Allah actually wants to see people getting barbecued for all eternity. Oh wait, that is exactly right. Take a look. As far as I have counted, the story of Satan getting kicked out of heaven has been told at least 4 times in the Quran, and it is as follows. Allah commands all the angels to bow down in front of Adam. Now Satan, or Iblis, is a being with an honorable integrity, and therefore disobeys Allah's condescending command, to which God replies, "Get up from here!" Now the verse we need to focus on is chapter 7 verse 18. In this verse, he says that if anyone follows Satan, they will end up in hell. But later on he forgot what he said, and now he has a completely twisted take on it. Chapter 11 verse 118 and 119. If thy Lord had so willed, he could have made mankind one people, but they will not cease to dispute, except those on whom he has bestowed his mercy. And for this did he create them, and the word of thy Lord shall be fulfilled. I will fill hell with jinns and men altogether. So the reason Allah doesn't give us knowledge and mercy to everyone is so that his word can come true? So he wants people to be astray? What, so that he can put them in hell and Allah can prove he has a bigger penis than Satan? Like I said, Allah wants some of us to go to hell. So again, it sounds like Allah is running the show. And our free will, well, even if it exists, it doesn't really matter. Because the purpose of life is apparently God trying to teach Satan a lesson, and humans are just worthless pawns in it. You know, at this point, humans descending from slime seems a lot more meaningful, doesn't it? Moving on, chapter 25 verse 2. He has created everything and has measured it exactly according to its due measurements. I find this verse to be a bit ambiguous, and it might not even seem like much, which is why we have to go to the tafsirs, or Quranic commentary. The tafsir of Ibn Kathir says everything apart from him is created and subject to him. He is the creator, Lord, Master, and God of all things, and everything is subject to his dominion, control, and power. I prefer the explanation given in the tafsir of Maududi. He even has a different translation for the verse. He translated as, who created each and everything and then ordained its destiny. His commentary is as follows. There may be other translations of this also. He has ordained it in due proportion, or he has appointed an exact measure for everything, but no translation can convey its real meaning, which is, Allah has not only created everything in the universe, but also determined its shape, size, potentialities, characteristics, terms of existence, the limitations and the extent of its development, on all other things concerning it. In other words, he predestined everything. Maududi then goes on to say, then he has created the means and provisions to enable it to function properly in its own separate sphere. This seems like an attempt to reconcile the verse with the concept of free will. However, it does a bad job, because if everything is controlled by Allah, then nothing can be in its own separate sphere. Even if it did, the separate sphere would also be under the control of Allah. Chapter 57, verse 22. No misfortune can happen on earth or in your souls, but is recorded in a decree before we bring it into existence. Chapter 64, verse 11. No kind of calamity can occur, except by the leave of Allah. So the earthquakes, tsunamis, poverty, starvation, all of these happen because of Allah? Again, Allah is simply running the entire show. But I'd like to focus on 57 verse 22, where it says, no misfortune can happen on earth or in your souls, but is recorded in a decree before we bring it into existence. Remember Sami Zaatari talking about a book that Allah uses?
Islam teaches that God knew everything, and not only did He know what you're going to do and what everybody's going to do and everything that will happen, He also recorded this down in a book. And as I said, this often confuses people. Now, just because God knows what you're going to do before you do it does not equal Him controlling you like a robot.
Sami Zaatari likes to think that just because everything has been written down does not mean that we are under Allah's control. However, chapter 57 verse 22 gives us a different picture. It says that all the misfortunes have been recorded in a book, and Allah brings it into existence. That's the key part. This is like saying that He causes to happen whatever He has written in His book. If there are still Muslims who like to think that we do have a free will and we're not completely under Allah's control, wait till you see this. Now remember when I said Allah makes an evil one your best friend if you refuse to remember God? Well, here's the important part that I left out. Chapter 74 verse 56, but none will keep it in remembrance except as Allah wills. So if Allah doesn't will, you can't keep Him in remembrance. If you can't keep Him in remembrance, Allah sets an evil one to be your best friend. If Satan's your best friend, you end up in hell. Is Allah still supposed to be infinitely good? Because it seems like He's infinitely insane. And now for the final verse. Chapter 81, verses 27 to 28. Verily, this is no less than a message to all the worlds, with profit to whoever among you wills to go straight. So if a person wills to go straight, if he wills to do right, he will find profit in Allah's message. Am I wrong about everything I said in this video? Does this mean that humans do have some kind of free will? That we can be saved by our own choices? Our own free will? Can we? Nope. Chapter 81, verse 29. But you shall not will except as Allah wills. So we cannot will except what Allah wills for us. We cannot choose a path unless it has been chosen for us by Allah. It seems as if humans are just like
robots.
Verses 27 to 29 pretty much says this. You can be good if you want to be good, but you can only want to be good if Allah programs you to want to be good. So if any Muslim out there thinks that you have free will, you don't. You're just a robot according to your own Quran. Putting it all together, Allah guides whoever He wants, sends astray whoever He wants, He gives knowledge and wisdom to whoever He wants, He seals the hearts, eyes, hearing, and understanding of whoever He wants. He causes Jews to be close-minded hypocrites with their hearts sealed. He causes Christians to hate each other and become enemies. He flings thunderbolts at whoever He wants. He grants or restricts provision for sustenance to whomever He wants. He causes natural disasters whenever He wants. He created humans impure, weak, and impatient. He made the evil ones become friends with non-Muslims so that they remain misguided. He predestines everything, and finally, He created us without free will, as we cannot will anything unless Allah wills it for us. And all this is done so that Allah can settle a score with Satan.
What part of the Quran did you find illogical? Illogical.